appointment that you had in your mind, but it was one that God had in his mind. And we are so glad that you are here. We're so glad that you're here. You're catching us in the middle of Ruth. We're looking at this life lived in contrast. The book of Ruth takes place during the time of the Judges. At the end of the book of Judges, it says what the time of the Judges was like. There was no king on the throne of Israel, not just politically, but theologically. They had rejected God from being their king. And as a result, everyone did what was right in their own eyes. Some of you remember from 2 weeks ago. Everyone did what was right in their own eyes, which doesn't just mean moral relativism. It means they are making decisions that don't even make sense by the time they get to the end of their nose. No foresight, just reactivity. And we saw a family plunged into crisis. Not only is there no king on the throne, everybody's doing what's right in their own eyes, but there's a family who left the promised land to sojourn and then eventually put down roots in Moab, the not promised land. And the providers of that family, the protectors of that family, which in this day and age was exclusively the men, are all dead. And through a bitter exchange last week, Naomi and Ruth have found themselves back in Bethlehem. The end of chapter 1 says at the beginning of barley harvest. They are finally seeing past today, past tomorrow. They're seeing the possibility of provision projected in the future. And that's where we meet them in your copy of God's Word, in Ruth chapter 2. Would you please meet me there in your copy of God's Word? Ruth chapter 2, verse 1. And if you forgot a Bible or you don't have one with you this morning, there should be a hardback black Bible somewhere underneath the chair in front of you. And you can find Ruth chapter 2, verse 1 on page 208 of those hardback black Bibles. Ruth chapter 2, verse 1. They're back in Bethlehem, Ruth and Naomi. Chapter 2, verse 1 reads this way. Now, Naomi had a relative of her husband's, a worthy man of the clan of Elimelech, whose name was Boaz. And Ruth the Moabite said to Naomi, "Let me go to the field and glean among the ears of grain, after him in whose sight I shall find favor." And she said to her, "Go, my daughter." So she set out and went and gleaned in the field after the reapers. And she happened to come to the part of the field belonging to Boaz, who was of the clan of Elimelech. And behold, Boaz came from Bethlehem. And he said to the reapers, "The Lord, Yahweh, be with you." And they answered, "The Lord, Yahweh, bless you." Then Boaz said to his young man who was in charge of the reapers, "Whose young woman is this?" And the servant who was in charge of the reapers answered, "She is the young Moabite woman who came back with Naomi from the country of Moab. She said, 'Please let me glean and gather among the sheaves after the reapers.' So she came, and she has continued from early morning until now, except for a short rest." Then Boaz said to Ruth, "Now, listen, my daughter. Do not go glean in another field or leave this one, but keep close to my young women. Let your eyes be on the field that they are reaping, and go after them. Have I not charged the young men not to touch you? And when you are thirsty, go to the vessels and drink what the young men have drawn." Then she fell on her face, bowing to the ground. and said to him, "Why have I found favor in your eyes, that you should take notice of me, since I am a foreigner?" Ruth is an outsider coming in. An outsider coming in. As I scan this room, I know many of the stories in it. And you know what? I'm looking at some former outsiders who have come in. Make no mistake, when it comes to the gospel of Jesus Christ, there are people outside. The Apostle Paul makes this abundantly clear in his letter to the church in Ephesus, that apart from the perfect person and finished work of Jesus Christ, we are alienated from God. We're outside of his grace. And that those who are surrendered to Jesus Christ have been brought in, not only to the household, but into the family of God. And the good news is, if you're an outsider, you can become an insider. That's good news. Ruth is an outsider coming in. She wasn't raised in church. She wasn't raised under the God of the promise in the land of promise with the people of the promise. And yet here she finds herself coming in. And coming in one sense, is what she knows she needs to do, and in another sense makes no sense to her at all. How could I find favor in your eyes, Boaz? I'm a foreigner. People don't do it like this here. And so I'd like to title the message this morning, Dear Outsider. And it's to two groups of people. It's to people who are outsiders, who have never found their way into the family, to the household of God, through the finished work of our perfect Savior, Jesus Christ. But it's also to those who are inside and feel outside. And let me tell you that before I preach this sermon to all of you this morning, the Lord had to preach it to me on Wednesday. There are several things that I see in this text that have to do with favor, and it might be describing where you are in your life right now. Here's the first one: when you find favor, even as a misfit. Oh, some of you are laughing because you know I'm talking about you. Sometimes I'm a misfit in my own house. Sometimes I'm a misfit in my own brain. I think it's called being outside your mind, Richard. Don't poke me while I got the mic, bro. Here we go. We were talking about misfits. When you find true favor, even as a misfit. Verse 1, now Naomi had a relative of her husband's, a worthy man of the clan of Elimelech, whose name was Boaz. That right there is what we call a narrator's comment. It's a narrator's comment. The narrator's setting us up. let us know what's coming. Verse 2, and Ruth, and just in case you forgot where she's from, the Moabite, said to Naomi, let me go to the field to glean among the ears of grain after. Now, Ruth doesn't have the name from verse 1 because that was a narrator's note. She doesn't have the name. I want to pull up for just a second and let you know that just because God hasn't told you his plan for you yet doesn't mean he doesn't have one. Let me go to the field and glean among the ears of grain after him in whose sight I shall find favor. And she said to her, go, my daughter. Now that's a shift from last week, where Ruth got the silent treatment all the way to Bethlehem. I think like it is for me, it is for Naomi, it's easier to be positive when positive things are happening. Verse 3, so she set out and went and gleaned in the field after the reapers. So we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, that in the ancient, in these ancient societies, this was the welfare system. Is you'd have people who owned the fields, people who harvested in the fields, and they had people with tools and tools of efficiency in order to reap the primary bulk of the harvest, and there were people who were coming in behind them picking up the leftovers in order to eat. Those are the gleaners. So we got the reapers out front, the gleaners in back, right? Reapers out front, gleaners in back. So she set out and went and gleaned in the field after the reapers, and she happened to come, wouldn't you know it? She happened to come to the part of the field belonging to Boaz, who was of the clan of Elimelech. Uh-oh. That's good news. We read from the narrator's note, Boaz is a worthy man. He's worthy. And not only does she find herself in Boaz's field, verse 4, and behold, Boaz came from Bethlehem. Now, let's let the text set the scene for us. He is walking onto the job site with the work already in progress. He's not just the boss, he's a boss. You know what I mean? He walks in and it's all set. It's already happening. He's somebody. It's his field. It's his portion of this field. He's somebody. And yet, his first stop, we're going to find out in a verse that he's got a supervisor on site. And his first stop isn't to the supervisor. It's to the guys doing the grunt work. It says, and he said to the reapers, the Lord be with you. And they answered, the Lord bless you. What? Man, don't they know this is the time of the judges where there's no king on the throne of Israel and everybody does what's right in their own eyes? And we pull up on a group of blue-collar workers who greet each other in the covenant name of the God of Israel. What we're finding here is that Boaz isn't just a man of integrity. He has established a culture of integrity around him in a time where everybody's doing what's right in their own eyes. No panic is mentioned. I don't want to spend too much time preaching what it doesn't say, but it doesn't seem like it's the kind of crew where Boaz walks in from Bethlehem and they all go, oh, quick, here he comes, look busy. Right? They're doing what they're supposed to do. They're saying what they're supposed to say. Then Boaz in verse 5 said to his young man who was in charge of the reapers, now he's going to stop by the supervisor's office, who was in charge of the reapers, whose young woman is this? Hey, I've never seen that temp before. She's a temporary worker, temporary job. When it's available, she works. Never seen her before. Whose young woman is this? And the servant who was in charge of the reapers answered. Now, just notice this is a supervisor who also knows what's going on. You see? Do you see the integrity in the culture? The boss can pull up to the supervisor and go, who's that? He's like, got it. I got it right here. I found out this morning. She is the young Moabite woman who came back with Naomi from the country of Moab. Here's the conversation I had with her. Verse 7. She said, please let me glean and gather among the sheaves after the reapers. She didn't need a promotion right up front. Just let me hang in the back and get what I can. After the reapers. So she came and has continued from early morning until now, except for a short rest. She's working hard. Don't work, don't eat. That's the employment plan she's on. Don't work, don't eat. Verse 8. Then Boaz said to Ruth, now, listen, my daughter. Do not go to glean in another field or leave this one. He doesn't go, hey, Moabite, shoo. You've been mooching all morning. It's time to find a new place to mooch. He doesn't say that. He doesn't say that. He says not to leave his field. Don't go glean somewhere else. Keep close to my young women, he says at the end of verse 8. Let your eyes be on the field that they are reaping and go after them. I've got 2 kids. They're 9 and 11. And man, they got some more freedom lately. Just a little bit more. And so, I do this all the time. I did it this weekend. I was like, hey, go ahead and go over there, but stay where you can see me. Because if you can see me, I can see you. Oh, there's some parents in the room. If you can see me, I can see you. But that's what he's saying. Don't lose sight. Don't lose sight of my crew. You stay in the line of sight of my crew. And then he says in the back half of verse 9, have I not charged the young men not to touch you? And when you are thirsty, go to the vessels and drink what the young men have drawn. So he's providing for her and he's protecting her. And he knows he could walk off that job site. We can tell even from the brief introduction to him and his crew, he could walk off that job site and what he said was supposed to happen is going to happen. Some of you have been mingling more among the people of God. It doesn't mean you feel like you fit all the time. Maybe you feel like a misfit. Maybe you talk a little bit different than church folks. Maybe you walk in your life a little bit differently than the people that you are slowly finding a place with. But if you're starting to find true favor in that place, even as a misfit, keep paying attention. This sermon's for you. When you find true favor, even as a misfit, and then this, when you find true favor in faithfulness, when you are doing what's right more and more, and the good things that follow doing what's right are following more and more. This sermon's for you. Verse 10. Then she fell on her face, bowing to the ground, and said to him, "Why have I found favor in your eyes?" I think Boaz does sit in contrast a little bit to Naomi's interaction with her on the way to Bethlehem. Naomi's reaction to her was, "Shoo! Why have I found favor in your eyes?" she asks. She said, "That you should take notice of me since I'm a foreigner." Other people, the fact that I'm a foreigner, it doesn't help, it hurts. Now, this is conjecture on my part. The text doesn't say this. But I don't think it's a stretch. Because in the book of Matthew, chapter 1, we see who Boaz's mom and dad are. His mom was a lady of the night in the red light district of Jericho. And one night, spies from the people of God came knocking on her door. And she had to make a quick decision. Was she going to bet on the king of Jericho, or was she going to bet on the God of the Hebrew people? And she bet on the God of the Hebrew people. And the Hebrew people came and shouted the wall down that she lived in. Miraculously, it came straight down. And her life was spared, and her household was spared because she put her faith in God, the writer of Hebrews says, rather than in herself or in the powers of this world. One of the spies who came to her door that night was a guy named Salmon. And they ended up getting married and having a son named Boaz. And I've got a theory that when Boaz sees that outsider in that field, he sees his mama. And I've got a theory that the reason that Boaz has increased in a time of famine is because he grew up, like so many of us do, with the story of how his mom and dad fell in love. And when it made absolutely no worldly sense at all, his mom put her faith in a moment of crisis into the God of Israel. And it went well for her. And so when famine comes, and the reapers are like, "The crop's low again, boss." And the supervisor comes and goes, "We got robbed for the third time again last night because everybody's doing what's right in their own eyes and there's no king on the throne. Maybe we should pick up and move." He's like, We're sticking with the God of the promise, in the land of the promise, with the people of the promise. Let me tell you about my mama. That's just my theory. And I think it explains possibly how he responds in verse 11. But Boaz answered her, "All that you have done for your mother-in-law since the death of your husband has been fully told to me." Okay, so not only is he influential, not only is he wealthy, not only is he worthy, not only is he a man of integrity who cultivates integrity around him, but he's connected. He knows what's going on around town. It's been fully told to me, he says, "and how you left your father and mother and your native land to come to a people that you did not know before." Verse 12, "The Lord repay you for what you have done." Now, in just a minute, Boaz is going to provide some material help, more than he's already done. But I want you to notice that before he gives her anything he has to offer, he blesses her in the name of the Lord. Verse 12, the Lord repay you for what you have done, and a full reward be given to you by the Lord, the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come to take refuge. She is welcomed. Listen to the technical. Don't let a headline get in the way of this. You with me? Don't let a headline. She is welcomed as a refuge. She finds safety with Boaz. Some of you, maybe not political or geographical, you have walked into the building this morning, a theological refugee. And I want to tell you that you've come into a place of integrity and safety under the careful watch of a master who's better than Boaz. He runs a good crew when we do what he says. And sometimes we don't. When you find true favor, even as a misfit, when you find true favor in faithfulness, last but not least, when you find true favor as a new servant. Maybe you're even starting to get involved, to serve. Look with me at verse 13. Then she said, I have found favor. There it is again. I have found favor in your eyes, my Lord. That means my master. Notice how it's not capitalized in your translation. My Lord, for you have comforted me and spoken kindly to your servant. Who's she talking about when she says, you have spoken kindly to your servant? Who's she talking about? She's talking about herself. And then she is also talking about herself when she says in the second part of that phrase, though I am not one of your servants. What? What is she talking about? Thank you for speaking kindly to your servant, even though I'm not one of your servants. What's that about? Is she going crazy? Is the heat of the day getting to her? I don't think it is. I think Ruth has found something really, really important. And it is that before you have the position of a servant, you need to have the posture of a servant. We've got lots of people serving in this church. Actually, you can go to our website, newlifebiblefellowship.com, click on About, and scroll down. You'll see our elders, our deacons, our team leaders, servants. And before those people were put into a position of servant, they had a posture of servant. Ruth is coming to Boaz with a posture. I'm your servant, without presuming upon becoming one of his servants. And know that when the boss is good, I'm preaching now. When the boss is good, servant is a good position. When the boss is good, servant is a good position to be in. Verse 14, and at mealtime, Boaz said to her, the temp from Moab, come here and eat some bread and dip your morsel in the wine. What? Man, first day on the temp job, and she gets to have lunch with the boss. And she's humble, but she's not stupid. So verse 14 says, so she sat beside the reapers, and he passed to her roasted grain, and she ate the portion ration to her. Is that what it says? And she ate everybody else's leftovers. Nope. It says she ate until she was satisfied. Maybe the first time in a long time she's had a full belly. She ate until she was satisfied, and she had some left over. It's the first time in a long time she's had a take-home container. Verse 15, when she rose to glean, Boaz instructed his young men, saying, let her glean even among the sheaves, and do not reproach her. Day one on the job, lunch with a good boss. A good boss. There's no move in this where he's trying to get something from her. You know what I'm saying? A good boss. Lunch with a good boss and a promotion after lunch. Got leftovers to take home. Let her glean even among the sheaves and do not reproach her. And also pull out some from the bundles and for her and leave it for her to glean and do not rebuke her. Okay, first day on the job, temp job, lunch with the boss, promotion after lunch, and a bonus. What a great day. Verse 17, so she gleaned in the field until evening. Then she beat out what she had gleaned. It was about an ephah of barley. That's about 22 liters. If you got footnotes, you can see that there. It's like a lot. So, maybe I'm describing you finding your way in from the outside to the people of God. Maybe I'm describing it for you, and you're finding true favor even as a misfit, and you're finding true favor even as in faithfulness and the posture and maybe even the position of a servant. What should you do with this? Well, that's what we see in 18 through 23, which I promise I'm going to take faster than the rest of it. When you find true favor even as a misfit, when you find true favor in faithfulness, when you find true favor as a new servant, here it is. Don't panic. Pay attention. Your Redeemer is close by. Maybe you've been finding your way into a community of faith, a family of faith, Lord willing, this one. And if this is happening to you, I want you to not panic, because sometimes those of us who have been treated bad by the world or other Christians so long, when we start to get treated well by them, we freak out. Don't panic. When you find favor, don't panic, but pay attention. Don't run the car off the road overcorrecting it, but 10 and 2. Pay attention. Your Redeemer is close by. Look with me at verse 18. And she took it up and went into the city. Her mother-in-law saw what she had gleaned. How big were her eyes when she came in with the paycheck? She also brought out and gave her what food she had. Look, I got a take-home container too. What food she had left over after being satisfied. After being said, I don't know if that means, maybe she came in and Naomi's like, so you want some of it? No, I'm actually already full. I ate already and brought all this home. And her mother-in-law said to her, where did you glean today? And where have you worked? Blessed be the man who took notice of you. So she told her mother-in-law with whom she had worked. And she said, the man's name with whom I work today is Boaz. And Naomi said to her daughter-in-law, may he be blessed by the Lord. And then check this. This is from chapter 1. the lady who was like, don't call me delight, call me bitterness, right? And check what she says next. Whose kindness has not forsaken the living or the dead. She's getting it right now. That's who God is. His faithfulness does not forsake even the people who forsake him. He is faithful to the living and the dead. She's on it now. I pray she can stay on it, because right now it's looking like she rides the wave down and back up again. But maybe Naomi can keep her eyes focused on God's character. Naomi also said to her, she's just going to call out all the good things that are happening here. The man is a close relative of ours, one of our redeemers. Now, I don't want to get too far this week into the technical aspects of this, but what was happening is that because Elimelech had died and Mahlon had died and Chilion had died, there was no one to redeem all that was owed to their family, because this is the promised land, but it's promised to the people of Israel, and you have to have that connection into the family tree through the proper channels. So right now, they've got some stuff that's in a dormant deed, and they need somebody to claim the deed for them. And Naomi hears about Boaz and goes, oh, he could redeem us. She starts to see it. That should preach to a group of people who, apart from a redeemer, cannot lay claim to any of the benefits of God's people. But we have a redeemer who can redeem the deed that lies dormant for us. Verse 21, and Ruth the Moabite said, besides, he said to me, you shall keep close by my young men until after they have finished all my harvest. It's not a temporary job anymore. Verse 22, Naomi said to Ruth, her daughter-in-law, it is good, my daughter, that you go out with his young women, lest in another field you be assaulted. I almost pick up, maybe I'm reading between the lines a little bit too much, but I almost pick up that Ruth didn't quite understand the immediate significance, right, of, yeah, you stick close to my people and we're going to be okay. She didn't understand the immediate significance, and Naomi's like, oh, that's a big deal. That means you can be safe while you go out. Naomi's starting to see it a little bit more, it seems. Verse 23, so she kept close to the young women of Boaz, gleaning until the end of the barley and wheat harvest. Now, I'm a little bit of a Bible nerd, so I got to confess to you, this is my favorite part of the chapter right here. Because if you remember at the end of chapter 1, it said they came to Bethlehem at the beginning of barley harvest. And that was significant because they were living in a day where everybody was doing what was right in their own eyes. The decisions that they were making didn't even make sense by the time they got past the end of their nose. Everybody is living reactively and in the moment. And this family finally, at the end of chapter 1, in the foresight of barley harvest, has the occasion to look beyond today and tomorrow into barley harvest. And I did a little bit of legwork for you, and I found out that wheat and barley are planted at the same time, but wheat matures slower than barley. And that means that the author keeps extending the scope of the hope for this family further and further into the future, and it's going to end up going further than they could ever imagine. And I don't want to rob Brad of his thunder too early for June 14th. He's going to close out this series for us. I don't want to rob him of the thunder too early, but can I just tell you that Ruth's going to have a son, and his name's Obed. And Obed's going to have a son, and his name's Jesse. And Jesse's going to have a son, and his name's David. and there will be a king on the throne of Israel, but he's not the last king. They haven't had their last king yet. Not on the throne. Not on the throne of Israel, because a day is coming where that man who was walking by the roadside and a blind beggar named Bartimaeus called out to him and said, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. That man who said to us that there's another harvest and it's plentiful, but the workers are few. That man is coming through the line of Ruth. And just last week, they couldn't imagine past the end of barley season. Jesus is the good news. In our church, we say it this way: the gospel is the good news that while we were still sinners, Jesus was born, Jesus died on the cross, Jesus rose from the dead, Jesus went to heaven, and Jesus is coming back again. And the reason that we put it up there like that is really important, and it's because sometimes we can think that the good news is something that we do with it. And that's why we could have put that up there and saved some pixels on the screen. We could have just said Jesus and then put it under. But I was like, let's put it up there 5 times. Just to make sure everybody understands the gospel doesn't start with you. The gospel starts with Jesus. Jesus was born, he died on the cross, he rose from the dead, he went to heaven, and he's coming back again. And the response to that gospel is required. But let me just tell you, if you choose not to respond to it today, it doesn't stop being the gospel. The provision doesn't get cut off just because you don't accept it. And I want you to forget for a moment everything that you've done for the Lord. Put it out of your mind. Take your imaginary resume and shred it. Because all that matters right now in this moment is whether or not you have responded to the gospel like this in Romans 10:9. If you have never confessed with your mouth that Jesus is Lord, and, not or, and believed in your heart that God raised him from the dead, friend, you're not saved. And it doesn't matter how many hours your butt has been in the seat you're in right now. It doesn't matter. That's not what saves you. It doesn't matter how nice or how generous you are. It doesn't matter how much you smile at people. It doesn't matter how much money you've given. It doesn't matter how many times you've prayed. If you have never confessed with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believed in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you're not saved. You're outside. Won't you come in? And maybe this moment right now is like freaking you out because there's like all these people around. Can I just tell you, you're in the field of a good master with workers. You know what I mean? It's not because we couldn't think of something else to do. It's because this matters. And it is time for you to stop sitting outside and come in. And if you do, you are not going to find a field full of hands who go, oh. You're not. You're a theological refugee. And we would like to welcome you into a haven of gospel integrity and safety. Because we serve a master better than Boaz. So I'm going to ask you to do something that is potentially terrifying to you. I'm going to ask that if you have never surrendered your life to Jesus Christ, as it is described by the Apostle Paul on our screen right now, I want you to take the step Ruth took, the posture of a servant, and say, that's me, and put your hand up right now. You've never surrendered. You've never surrendered. I see you in the back. Come on, hand up high. I see you. You're the one that I was talking to earlier this morning when I said the Lord appointed you to be here this morning. And so I'm going to invite you to pray a prayer with me. There's nothing magical about the words. It's an expression of the surrender that you're already experiencing. And the prayer goes just like this. I'm going to take it right from the screen. You ready? You ready back there? Who raised your hand? You ready? Father, I confess that Jesus is Lord. I believe you raised him from the dead. Save me in his name. You walked in an outsider. You're walking out an insider. But I told you there were two people I was preaching to. Not just those who were outside, but those who were inside and felt outside. And how many of you would be bold enough with me, with Wednesday Phil, to put your hand up and say, I'm inside, but man, sometimes I feel like I'm outside. And I want to tell you, if I can borrow from last week, you are not your feelings. You feel outside, but you're not. You are inside the promises of God that were purchased for you by the blood of Jesus. And I want to invite you to stop wallowing in your feeling of outsideness and to live all the way into the promises of salvation that are afforded to you by the blood of Jesus Christ. Freedom from the penalty of your sin and increasing freedom from the power of your sin nature. And eventually, freedom from the presence of sin entirely. And I want to invite you, if you would like, during this last song, to lift up your hands, to allow the seat that you're in to be your altar this morning, to come to the altar and be reminded of who you are. Would you stand to your feet as we sing?